Good afternoon, this is Jeff White. Julia, just doing a sound check. Are we good?
Jeff, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
Yep. Dee Lupton, I'm going to unmute you and have you do a sound check.
Okay, do
You
you
are
hear me?
unmuted. I hear you just fine. That's great.
Okay.
And then, so you will just now mute yourself by hitting the microphone button and it'll turn red. And then if you want to ask questions or make comments during the meeting, you can just do the raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Okay, talk to you later.
Great. Thanks, Dee.
Hello, this is Jeff.
Hey, so two things. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hi, Maureen. I'm going to unmute you and have you do a sound check real quick. You should be unmuted. Maureen, are you there? We will come back to you. All right. Okay, Jeff. Louis Gillingham, I'm going to do a quick sound check for you. I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear me? Oh, hold on. All right, you are self-muted. There you go.
Okay, I got the green light.
Yep, you're good. So go ahead and now you'll mute yourself and you'll be good to go. Perfect. Thanks, Louis. John Carmichael, I'm going to unmute you and have you test.
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you just great.
Thank you, Tony.
You'll just mute yourself now. Thank you. Gordon, I'm going to do a sound check for you and have you test your mic. Go ahead.
I hear you fine, Tony. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Thanks so much, Gordon. If you just go ahead and press on that mic button, it'll turn red and you'll be, yep, you are muted. Perfect.
Hello, everybody. This is Jeff White. We will be getting going in a moment. We're just doing a couple more checks on who's already in on webinar and already done sound checks. If we can make the attendance check-in go a little bit quicker, we will do so. Lynn, hang on just 1 second. And Maya, if you could move us to the ACCSP presentation, that would be wonderful.
Got it.
Okay, well, we are just a moment after our time, and I wanted to just run down through, welcome everybody, a quick list of people that I'm aware are already on the phone and have had their sound checks done at some point today. Want to maintain as much time as we can for our meeting. There are a few folks that I have not yet found on the webinar, and I will be asking for you to speak up at the right time. But for ASMFC, we have Bob Beal, Maine, Megan Ware, New Hampshire, Sheree Patterson, Massachusetts, Dan McKiernan, Rhode Island, Jason McNamee, Connecticut, Matt Gates, New York, Maureen Davidson. Do we have Maureen on the line and webinar yet? Another representative from New York?
Jeff, let me just make sure she's not muted by me. I just have to get to her or Justin or whoever is the muter person may.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here.
Fantastic. Good to have you, Maureen.
All right.
Jeff, one more. I apologize. Sheree just texted me and said that she will need to do a check. So when you're done with the list, if we could go back to Sheree to do a sound check, that would be great.
You're there now. Why don't you just go ahead?
I think she's got to get her headset in her ears. So if we do it at the end, that would be great.
No problem. The next folks that I think are on the list, maybe I'll do 5 and pause. For New Jersey, we've got Joe Cimino, Pennsylvania, Chris Kuhn, Delaware, John Clark, in Maryland, our chair, Lynn Begley, and in Virginia, Louis Gillingham. Are we good there? I'll assume silence is good. Moving on, in North Carolina, we have Dee Lupton on the line, South Carolina, Mel Bell, Georgia, Kathy Knowlton, Florida, Jim Estes, PRFC, we have Marty Gary, DC Fisheries, we were looking for Brian King, but I wanted a confirmation there. Maybe not, okay. For NOAA Fisheries, we have the potential for David Detler, Alan Lowther, and Derek Orner. Could maybe the 3 of you, or whoever's available, speak up, please?
Hey there, Jeff. This is Derek. I'm online.
Thank you, Derek. Moving to Fish and Wildlife Service, Mike Millard. And for the councils, we do have John Carmichael on for South Atlantic and Brandon Muffley for Mid-Atlantic. I'm not aware of a member for, is in New England, is Tom Neese or another representative on the line?
I'm just double checking to make sure, and I need to do a sound check with Brandon Muffley in 1 second.
Okay.
I think PK has gotten off the phone, who was on for New England earlier. I don't see him here anymore. And then Brandon Muffley, I'm just going to quickly do a sound check with you. You're unmuted.
Hey, Tony, I'm here.
Great. And if you just remute yourself with, yep. Okay, Jeff. And Sheree,
sound check with Sheree.
She said she is good. She does not need to do one. Thank you.
Okay. Then I know we have Gordon Colvin checked in as our MRIP speaker and contributor for later. And just once again asking if David Detler or Alan Lowther have joined us. Okay.
I don't see them on the list.
No problem. I think we're good on our attendance. I will ask Maya to move 1 slide forward. So overall, the webinars have been going very well today. I think folks are getting really good at this, but I do want to say it's gone. The credit today goes to Tony and the whole kind of ASMSC staff team approach in their preparation and attention to get this going. I'll just kind of leave this. I'm not going to read all this to you, but a highlight on how to mute, unmute, raise hands when necessary. And I believe we have one motion today that we will do a roll call for again. And so that kind of gets us in and going. And the one last item that I want to steal the mic for another moment, and then I'll turn it over to our chair, Lynn, is just say, welcome to everybody. I do appreciate kind of the ongoing attention that you and your staff have had to ACCSP activities. As a group, we have had and seen a lot of progress in succeeding from a distance. And so the program updates that were sent out with supplemental materials include a long list of those items where we as a group have maintained timelines and deliverables under some significant and unforeseen challenges, of which the pandemic is not the only one. So thank you all, and Lynn, take it away.
All right. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Atlantic Coastal Cooperative Statistics Program Coordinating Council. This is going to be a pretty quick meeting. We only have one action item really to get through, as Jeff said, and that's the approval of the funding decision document and the 2021 request for proposals. I want to start with a couple of consensus requests. I would like to look for, is there anybody, do I have consensus on approval of agenda? If anybody has an issue with the agenda, please raise your hand now.
I don't see any hands raised, Lynn.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tony. Seeing none, we'll go on to approval of the meeting minutes from October 28th, 2019 in New Hampshire. Is there anyone who needs requests an edit or change to those meeting minutes? Please raise your hand if you do.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, and seeing none, the third bullet here is as a time-saving mechanism, Jeff and Julie and staff have included a summary of committee and program updates in your packet. They're great, and I just want to say quickly in regard to those first, congratulations to Alex DeJohnson, who's been selected as the new recreational data team leader. And I also want to extend a just massive thank you to all of the states. The spring data load was completed early this year by April 14th. So thank you to everyone and to your staff for a job well done there. And with that, is there anybody who has questions or comments about the committee updates?
I don't see any hands raised, Lynn.
Great. Okay, moving right along then to agenda item 3, we are going to consider the approval of the funding decision document and the 2021 RFP. And with that, I will kick it over to Julie.
Oh, thank you. Maya, can you go to the next slide, please? So what I wanted to do today was just to very quickly highlight the RFP changes and additions that are substantial. In your RFP packet, there was a summary page at the beginning that highlighted these as well, but they also included any other content changes that were made, and hopefully that helped to find those changes in the document for you. Maya, next slide, please. So the first change that I wanted to highlight was the language on the 75-25 split. This was added by the funding subcommittee because this was a topic that they were asked to review. They decided that there was no need or appropriate reason to change the 75-25 split at this point, but they wanted to make sure that how the 75-25 split was handled was very clear in the RFP. And so on page 2, the red text is new. The gray text indicates text that has existed prior to this. And so that red sentence is a new sentence that's been added. Before I move to the next slide, are there any questions on the 75-25 split?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, then next slide, please. Okay, on this slide, we have one change and one addition. One of the other items that was discussed by the funding subcommittee was the number of years for maintenance and new projects, and also how the base funding was going to be calculated. There was a proposal put before that committee that there would be 4 years of maintenance funding, and that would be preceded by a single year of new funding. So there would be 1 year of new funding, and then there would not be an option of do you want to be new or maintenance in the second year. You would automatically be maintenance in year 2. And the 4 years of maintenance funding would be used to calculate the base funding as the average of those 4 years. So the primary bullet, second sub-bullet there was changed to reflect that, but there were also other edits made throughout the document so that references to the base funding were consistent throughout the documents. The final item that is an addition to the RFP is that the SES committee has created Socio-Economic Priorities, and that document was reviewed by the Operations and Advisory Committees. And the approved version is in your materials. This is an addition to the RFP that we haven't had in previous years. These are the major changes or additions to the RFP. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
Julie D. Lupton has her hand up.
So Julie, this is Dee. So in addition to calculating the base to determine the average funding for the maintenance projects being the 4 years of maintenance, it looked like you also changed the number of years a project is considered new. That was on, I think, page 7 of the proposal format. It says partner project. Never funded by the program, new projects may not exceed a duration of 1 year. This is a change too. I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, ma'am. You faded in and out a little wee bit, but I believe that what you stated is correct. It's essentially a twofold change, and that is that the new funding will only be available for 1 year, not up to 2 years, and that the base will be calculated off of the 4 years of maintenance funding. So it is a twofold change. One is the number of years of available new funding, which is down to 1. And then the second is the base is actually calculated off the 4 years of maintenance. So yes, you're correct. That is a twofold change.
All right, thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Julie, for that, and nice job. I really appreciate the method of just highlighting the changes. That's very helpful. So at this point, I think what I would like to do to move this along, I know this is an action item, but I would like to try approving this, if it's the pleasure of the board, of the council, I'd like to try approving this just by consent. So what I'm going to do is ask if there is any opposition to the approval of the funding decision document and the 2021 request for proposals. And if you're opposed, please raise your hand and we'll discuss and move to the next step. But if we see no hands, we'll consider it approved.
Lynn, I do not see any hands raised.
That's great. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and forbearance. I appreciate that. And we're looking forward to a good 2021 of projects. And with that, I'm going to go back to Jeff White to discuss the MREP State Partnership Report to Congress. Take it away, Jeff.
Outstanding. Thank you, Lynn. And as mentioned earlier, we do have Gordon Colvin on the line to help us out when we get to the questions. Maya, if you could move forward one slide, please. There we go. It's a one-slide presentation, so that'll keep us on track. In the meeting materials, there's a PDF summarizing the state partnerships document, and over email prior to the meeting, I did send out a Word version requesting coordinating council input on the document itself. So this is one of several reports to Congress required by the Modern Fish Act. This one in particular covers both, the language at the top does state creating new partnerships, but the direction from MREP and ACCSP is really to cover existing state partnerships as well as new opportunities. And without going through it section by section, there are areas on state surveys that have been informed by the Gulf of Mexico where there are multiple certified sampling designs, and trying to balance out those things, the certification pathways and process, the funding approaches a little bit, as well as the criteria for the MREP standards and the data consolidation. There is a section there on the use of the NSAR, the National Saltwater Angler Registry data, and come back to that at the bottom. In the original email, I had asked for your comments back on the document as of, I think, May 11th, that based on some other feedback that has been extended. So I've kind of asked that by May 20th, if there's a chance to get that back to me, that would be wonderful. MREP has moved it back to near the end of the month so that we have a chance to both compile your comments as well as provide anything additional on our end. This was presented to the ACCSP Operations Committee on April 15th, and they've had a chance to comment already. And today we have an opportunity for any discussion that you would like to raise, any questions you may want to ask of myself or Gordon. And before I open it up to that discussion, I did want to go back to the idea that the NSAR MOUs between NOAA and each state are on the list for updating, and they'll be in contact, MREP will be in contact with each of the state contacts for that already. I've shared updated contact information with Gordon already to support that activity. And so that's the very broad overview. And with that, I will ask Maya to move to the next slide and see if folks wanted to raise their hands and have any discussion about this, potentially starting with Gordon. Was there something you wanted to add at this point?
Thank you, Jeff. Actually, there are two things I'd like to kind of say here at the beginning of the discussion. And the first one's just a little bit off subject, but you'll see in a minute. Earlier, you asked if David Detler or Alan Lowther was present for the meeting. They are not, but you're not stuck with me. I do see that Richard Cody has joined us, and although he's muted, Richard is present and able to follow along. And that's particularly important, and now I'm going to embarrass him at this moment in time, because we have all just learned, much to our delight, that Richard, effective on Monday, will become the division chief for the Fisheries Statistics Division, in the position that you all know Dave Van Voorhees in for so many years. Richard will be taking over that responsibility, and there's not much more in our office that's more closely affiliated with ACCSP than that. So please join me in congratulating Richard in that new assignment, and I'm sure that given his experience with ACCSP, he's going to be pretty comfortable. Now, at some point, Tony, it may be appropriate to unmute Richard just to let him say a word or two about that, but I kind of took him by surprise by doing this, and I thought it was timely.
Well, Gordon, I appreciate that, and if I don't know if this is functionally possible, but if we were all in the room together, this would be a moment of applause.
Yes.
Tony, is it possible to unmute everyone so we may give Richard a round of applause? I know that's a weird big ask, but
I don't know how to, I would say we just are virtually giving him a round of applause. I don't know how to.
All right, well.
Perhaps the meeting minutes can show that there was virtual applause at this moment of the meeting.
Outstanding. I love it. Congratulations, Richard. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me for that. And the second thing I wanted to just briefly mention, in addition to the state partnership plan that that Jeff is coordinating state review and comment for, we will also, and I wanted to let you all know that we will also be sending an email. There will be an email coming from Richard to each state in the next few weeks that is specific to the National Saltwater Angler Registry portion of this required review and report to Congress. It'll be fairly self-explanatory, I hope, and it will relate to the registry content in the plan that you have available to you. But essentially, we will be asking the states to do three things in this memo. We will be asking them to dust off, pull out, dust off, and review their individual MOAs, and so that we can be assured that both parties are familiar with its content as we proceed with the evaluation. Secondly, it will ask for some feedback on the registry-specific components of the evaluation that we are required to do for the report. And thirdly, it will ask the states to identify a point of contact for me to work with over the next few months as we complete this review. With that, if there's anybody who has any questions about the documents you have, I'd be glad to take them. And I'd like to thank Jeff for arranging for this discussion and for coordinating the review of the state partnership plan. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, I don't see any hands raised yet.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Richard, while folks think for a moment, would you like to take the floor? The mic, what are we calling it today?
We're going to have to unmute him, so just give us a second.
Well, thanks. I just wanted to follow up with what Gordon mentioned about the memo that we'll be sending out in the next few weeks. It's probably been a few years since people have looked at the MOAs, so feel free to contact us if you have difficulties locating them and and identifying a point of contact. But we'll be reaching out in the next few over the next few months to try and get to move the process along. But anyway, thanks everybody for the introduction. Gordon caught me by surprise, so I was kind of thankful that I was muted.
Okay, congratulations, Richard. That's exciting. So I think, is there anybody that has? I'll give it one more chance. Any additional questions regarding the the MRIP report to Congress?
I don't see any hands raised, Lynn.
Great, thanks, Tony. So I would definitely encourage folks to look that over. Jeff has placed some specific questions in the margins of that document for states to look at. So I would encourage everybody to look it over. And if you have comments, get them to Jeff by, I believe, May 20th is now his date. And with that, we'll move on. Is there anybody with any other business to present? Please raise your hand if so.
I don't see any hands raised, Lynn.
Okay, and I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody out there who has public comment for the Coordinating Council?
Still no hands raised.
That is brilliant. So it is 1:29, and we, if there is not any opposition raised, we will stand adjourned. And thank you, everybody, as always, for your participation, and to staff for a job very well done.